Today's tutorial is going to be a very quick and fast one. It's a tutorial on a trendy Bubu kaftan with V neckline and fitted waist. We would achieve the fitted waist by putting an inner belt into the dress. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for tuning into this channel, and if this video is helpful to you, kindly share it as well. So we'll dive right into today's tutorial. Hello everyone, so if you're new here, this is Amodiy's YouTube channel where we discuss fashion, lifestyle and sewing tutorials. We'll go into today's order of the day, which is this Bubu kaftan. Here with me I have my client's measurements. The foundation of a Bubu kaftan is basically a dartless bodice block, right? Because it's usually free. Dartless bodice block is one that does not have its used for your Bubu gowns, your free gowns, your shirts and the likes. It's very easy, and what we'll be needing is our tape roll, our scissors and our fabric. Here with me I have this really fine beautiful fabric. I'll be cutting my back pattern first. The first thing I'll do is to get my round neck measurement. Okay, so the kind of neckline that this kaftan takes is a V neckline, meaning we'll be putting an additional fabric on the neckline like your kimono fabric, and be cutting our neckline at 4 inches for the width, because the additional fabric I'm going to be adding for the neckline will be 2 inches, which will take it back to 2. The neckline will now be 2. It will become a high neckline. Like I said, the neckline you find in your kimono, jacket and all of that. Anyway, so this kind of this Bubu is going to have the sleeves attached to it. I'm not cutting separate sleeves for it, and so my client's shoulder is 16. This is half of her shoulder measurement. So what this means is, from here now, her sleeve length is going to be somewhere around 14. The fabric I'll be adding to the neckline I'll also be adding to the sleeves, so I'll add about 2 inches as well. So her sleeves length will be 16 inches from the shoulder point, but we'll be cutting it together, so I'll just extend my tape measure to the end of the fabric. From this end of my fabric now, I'll just slant it a bit and connect to my neckline. From this point now, I'll measure her sleeve, her round hand. I know this is now part of her sleeve, so I'll be measuring her round armhole, or how wide I want it to be. So I'll be giving her 9 inches. From this shoulder now, I'll be coming down. Her bust point is 11. I'll add half an inch because I did not give space for the sewing allowance here, so I'll just add half an inch to our measurement, so it will be 11.5. So when I sew the half inch, by the time I sew with half an inch here, I'll have 11 here. So from the shoulder now, 11.5. Her waistline, her hip, 8 inches from the waistline. So to measure the length of the fabric, which is 41 plus 1 inch allowance, I'll be marking 42 on my fabric. 42. So I'll roll with a straight line. For my bust line now, I also connect with a straight ruler. I'll do the same for my waistline and my hip line. After marking my sleeve width from the shoulder now, from the top of the fabric, I've marked my sleeve, my round sleeve, how wide I want the sleeve to be at this point. Remember the half inch, because of the half inch. So what this means is that my sleeve, so I'll go to her hip line. I'll go to her hip line and mark, instead of her hip measurement of 45 divided by 4, which is 11.5, I'll be marking 48 instead. Remember, it's a free gown, and I'll be connecting to the end of the fabric. It could be a shape for you, it could be a straight. So this is what I'll, from this point, connect to the straight line, connect from this hip line to her round sleeve measurement at the armhole. I'll come here like 1.5 inch and mark. Remember, 1/2 inch we used to join to the other fabric, so I'm coming out 1 inch on this side, and so I'll connect slightly like this. So from here now, this is our bust line, this is our waistline. What we'll have on our waistline is 16 inches. By the time she fixes her invisible belt, it will give it a better fit. I'll come to this hip line now, and from the waistline I'll make it a curve. My back neckline, I'll come down by 1 inch. I'll connect with a curve. I'll cut. So I'll add 1 inch allowance or 1.5 inch allowance on this side. And I'll cut all the way. And I'll also be placing notches so that when I cut it with the front pattern and I'm joining it, I would not make any mistakes. So that's what it looks like. This is the sleeve. This is where I'll be attaching the sleeves here. By the time I join here and I join here, I'll join here by 1/2 inch. So her round sleeve will be about 8 inches. So I'll add the extra fabric and join it to the sleeve so that it matches the neckline. I'll mark my round neckline measurement, which is 4.5. By the time I join 1/2 inch from here, I'll be left with 4 inches. I'll take this now and go and cut my front pattern. So I've gone to cut out my front pattern exactly like the back. The difference now will be in the shape of the neckline. This is my neck width here. Remember, it was 4 inches. We used 4 inches from the center, and I've also gone to cut my shoulder slope. So from these 4 inches now, measure how deep we want the neckline to be, bearing in mind that when we add our fabric, it's going to come up a bit. I'm going to be measuring 9 inches for the neck depth. 9 inches for the neck depth. I'll connect with a straight ruler. From this center front now, I'll go in by 1 inch. I'll connect to my neck width. I'll cut. When I open it up, this is what the neckline looks like. So I'll be adding another neckline that comes this way and overlaps. The neckline I'll be cutting, the kimono neckline I'll be cutting will be 2 inches. But I'll be adding 1/2 inch for joining allowance. I'll go and cut it on paper first for illustration purposes. So just to give you a sense of the length of the fabric we'll be using for the neckline, the plain fabric we'll be using for the neckline. We've already measured our back round neck, right? And that is 4 inches on fold. So 4 inches on fold, that's 8. For our front neckline, it is 9.5. By the time I join the shoulder with 1/2 inch, my length is 9 inches. You can either go and join your back shoulder now to your front and measure round from your center back neckline so that you get the round neck measurement. But I'll be doing it this way for the sake of this tutorial. So my front neckline is 9 inches, and then we have this 1 inch here. So to cut on paper, what I will do now is I'll add the front neckline, which is 9 inches plus 4 inches for the back. So that's 8. 4 in 2 places is 8, and then we have the front neckline 9 in 2 places, which is 18. So 18 plus 8, our round neckline is 26. So I'll be measuring my fabric 26 inches in length, and I'll fold my fabric 2 inches, 2.5 inches wide, half an inch for joining allowance. But if you're cutting this straight on fabric, you can just decide to cut more than 26. You can decide to cut about 30 inches so you do not fall short of fabric. So I'm cutting this on paper so you get the sense of what I'm doing. So I've gone out to measure my fabric. Our round neckline was 26. I measured 27 inches because we'll also be joining at the center of our fabric. 27 inches. So what I'll do now is to go and join the front neckline and the back neckline together. So I've secured it with pins just for the neckline. I'll open my fabric now. This is what my neckline looks like now. So like I said earlier, another method you can just do when you join your neckline, from your center back neckline, you mark it so you don't make any mistakes. You mark round, it's 26 inches on fold. Also place it here like this and measure round. You see I have 13 on this other side. So with your fabric now, you get your fabric that you want to add here. You get it. This is 2.5 inches wide. So what you do when you get it on fold, you take your scissors and you notch it. So you place it from the center back neckline like this, and you pin around. So I'll be pinning it on one side just to give you an idea of what to expect. Pin it by 1/2 inch. Remember we kept 1/2 inch in allowance, so you mark round and you pin with your 1/2 inch allowance. So remember I said we're going to be measuring 27 inches, right? So that we'll have 1/2 inch joining allowance on this center front like this. When you get to this point now, you go in your fabric diagonally. You go in like this, you go in this much diagonally like this, and you cut it a bit, just a tiny bit, less than 1/2 inch. You cut it this way. Now, this is paper, so it's not going to be as flexible as fabric. So when you cut it this way, when you get here now, you'll be able to bend your paper. You also cut your paper diagonally like that, your fabric, so that you'll be able to sew it. You also pin with 1/2 inch, and then you turn it this way. So you must have sewed round here like this, and so when you get to this center front part now, you get your fabric, and when you get to this diagonal point like this, get your fabric. When you're sewing, you squeeze it in, you force it to get to this other end. So it's almost there, and then you sew it in place with your 1/2 inch. Whatever you have, you add 1 inch to your round neckline measurement so that you have 1/2 inch to sew at this point. When you sew it, it becomes like this. So you go and do the same thing for this other end. When you get to this point, when you get to this point to sew, you notch it slightly diagonally. Notch it diagonally here, just slightly. and you do the same for the tip of your paper. Slightly, the tip of your fabric, you notch it slightly as well. So I finished pinning all the way to this diagonal point. Force it in at this point and sew it. When I get to this place, I'll turn my fabric inside, and this side I'll force it in at this diagonal point, force it in to get close to this other diagonal point where we marked our 1 inch, and then you sew it on top the first neckline. Then you turn it in, do it in such a way that here is neat when you're done, and then you press it with a steam iron. So when you're done sewing your neckline, this will give you, this is what you'll be having. You'll be having something like this. And like I said, I marked 9 inches from the shoulder for our neckline. I told you when these two overlap now, our neckline has reduced to about 4 inches because this will overlap. This would overlap eventually. So when I get my fabric, I'll sew it with the fabric and I'll show you what it looks like. At the sleeves, when I join my shoulder, I'll go and measure my round sleeve from this point that I curved to the other point. I'm having about 19 inches. I'll measure my fabric of 2 inches or 2.5 inches, depending on how wide you want it to be. I usually like it to match the neckline width, so I'll mark 2.5 for joining here, and then I'll mark 20 instead of 18. So when I join it, whatever excess I have, I'll trim it and close it with the bodice. So for our waistline now, luckily we notched the waistline for the front, so I'll connect to the other side with a straight ruler. This will enable us get the perfect mark for our inner belt. So I'll connect to the other end with a straight ruler. I'll find my center front. For our fabric, this is our center front. Our client round waist is 35 inches. What we had on fold was 32 inches because of the style of this kaftan. To get our 35 inches, use quarter of your waistline measurement. So 35 divided by 4 give me 8 3/4. So I'll just make it 9 inches. So from the center front now, I would mark 9 inches on this to this side. I'll come here again, I'll mark 9 inches on the other side. That means from one point to the other I'll have 18 inches. So this is half of our waist measurement. We'll cut our belt of about 1.5 inch in width. The belt will be this big, and then it will be longer than her round waist measurement. A belt of 40 inches, 20 on each side. So the belt will be 20 inches long on one side and will attach to this side, and on the other side will attach 20 inches long from here, so she'll be able to tie it inside her clothes. So now I'll go and join this side to the back. That is as simple as it can be. The next portion of this video will be the sewing video, so if you have not yet subscribed, kindly do so. Kindly like and share as well, and turn on your post notifications so you'll be aware when the next video drops. Bye.